Ooh, here's a little rowdy. But hey, welcome to the relationship theory. Here we take difficult emotions and we talk them out like a regular conversation. We take them in and then we talk them out like a regular conversation. Today, prison culture. So this is going to be a big topic. Walk with me here. All right. So I was finished just the other day talking with my mom about how New York operates. Now, I wasn't speaking specifically about how New York operates, but I did realize this one trend in society that makes it feel safe, and it is prison. So, what about prison makes people feel safe? Where it's a place where people go, where you put bad guys away, and girls. Now, the obvious suggestion and inclination to lean towards here is that if the bad guys and girls go away, society will be a much safer, more fun, imaginative, creative place to be in, right? So the answer is yes at first. Now, what happens to a society when it becomes used to that idea that bad guys and girls go to jail? What happens is this. So, that measure of safety that I was talking about before, it becomes socialized. And now I've been wondering about what it's like to want to on, move out of a familiar territory or place. And one of the things I've realized is that society and prison culture, mainly, right, has this idea that if you're not a bad guy or girl who deserves to go to prison, then you are a good guy or girl who deserves to stay in place. And that's a problem because if you want to move out from a particular city and you're used to the city's culture, the reality of your experience is going to be met with resistance. What kind of resistance are we talking about, though? It's going to be the simple kind of resistance, the I don't want you to leave, the kind of thing that you get from your neighbors. It's it's just this though. You automatically exude a different vibration, magnetism and energy when you expect different experiences out of life. And as it pertains to this one, moving, you get to see things differently. The most interesting about moving to a different city or a state or just out of the country that you're used to is being able to look at it from without rather than within, right? Because when you're within, you get to discuss the politics of the culture. You get to discuss the nature of it. Outsiders don't get to do that, and they're met with very defensive rebukes when they have anything to say about a city or a state or a country that they don't live in naturally, right? If you're not a citizen of the state, you don't have a say. Prison culture, though, steps away from this logic because it doesn't support people who want to move out from places like this. And this is, let me go a little deeper because it goes even further as this. The reality of prison culture is that if you feel safe enough to visit loved ones, and so do your neighbors, and that neighbor has a community, and like that neighborhood has a community, the reality of that community is actually based upon being able to visit loved ones in prison. Why is this important? For one very, very simple reason. If the bad guys and girls over time look like loved ones who just need to be met with grace, what people who don't go to prison only ever have to do is emotionally support their loved ones for free. What do I mean for free? Anyone who goes to jail has shelter, food, and a place to sleep automatically, and they have to pay nothing for it. Oh wait, but the price is crime. but they still get to visit loved ones. Not only that, you get paid in prison. Not only that, you get to make phone calls in prison. So if you really think about prison culture, the difficulty of moving out of a place like this is, well, if you don't have any intention of going to prison, people are going to meet you with resistance on moving out, because the safety of a prison is only really meant for bad people. But if bad people are in prison, still getting met with love, but you want to move out, it's almost like you're suggesting to them that their community, that culture, that prison culture, isn't enough. It doesn't suffice it for you, the entire experience. Because what I'm really trying to get at around prison culture is that just because we have a bucket to put people in doesn't necessarily mean that they're still outside of the community. Like, generally, these places are like detention centers and correctional facilities, right? And they're meant to reintegrate members of society into culture, into the culture of that society. And they're not necessarily misfits, right? Because of the word crime. It sort of legalizes the reason why we get to put people away in buckets. The misnomers and the mishappenings and the wrongful imprisonment aside, we still have a culture that endorses imprisoning people, but then building a culture around understanding that food, shelter, and a place to sleep, and even a community from inside the prison are still all available to that individual. Do you see what I'm getting at here? The more we look at prison as a place that's meant to be a part of society, the more we start to integrate ideals into that society that include prison. Now, obviously, this isn't a vote for a lack of prisons, but it is a discussion for whether or not you are considering moving out of any city, state, or country, because it's a perspective, it's a lens that you get to see of the culture that you're in, right? You don't get to see the discussion of prison culture happening until you're decided on moving out of the place. For instance, I live in New York. If I were to one day imagine that I wanted to live in a different state, I would instantly see how New York responds to people who want to live outside of New York. I've lived in New York all my life. What I'm going to get instantly, though, is this perspective of someone who isn't happy with a New York lifestyle. Why? Because if you don't fit into the New York lifestyle, but you don't belong in prison, you have a say, especially if you're a natural born citizen of that state. It's just your perspective distorts the quota and the typical everyday happenings of, in my case, New York, and wherever you live, if you intend to move out, that place as well. It's just an interesting thing to see. Prison culture is honestly established in every single city, state, country in the world, because as long as the place you live in has a prison, there's a culture developed around the prison. It's almost like you can tell what any neighborhood is like based off of what prison that neighborhood depends on to function like a typical society would.